Right, good evening everyone. We should be now live. And the weather's been getting a little bit warmer as well, annoyingly. But I think it's supposed to cool down, so it should be okay. But I was a little bit worried about putting the lights on, but I think it's going to be okay. So, how is everyone? And how have we been getting on in the last week? I noticed, for example, in the hotfixes, that they decided to nerf something I spent my last pennies on. Because when I transferred to the new realm, I made a complete arse of trying to get some gold across, so I didn't get very much gold across. So I've had to wait a little bit to be able to buy some of the 350 BOEs, which I bought a few now. I got a belt, I got the nice crit haste axe, and I got myself the Dark Moon trinket, which I suppose I still would. But yeah, I wasn't very pleased to. I bought it one day, and then the next day Blizzard nerfed it by 9%. Good evening, Chrome. Kevin, even, sorry. So, but never mind. Never mind. I see they've also fixed that dagger in the back. Is that what it's called? Yes, that's what it's called. Although there's a lot of people moaning about that based on using it in dungeon. I don't think in dungeons it's going to be that great anyway as a trait. But it also wasn't assigning the damage properly either. Hi, Dark Solix. So, come on then. What are we going to talk about today? They've eased back a little bit on news story, I suppose. Obviously, in the last week we'll have seen, what the start of BFA has had for us. But there's been interviews going on. There's Gamescom about to happen. But obviously we can't say about anything that's going to be in there. Evening, little mate. But what did people see the interview? What did people think about the cryptic suggestions with factions? Something to do with factions changing. It might even be covered this Thursday because there's another Q&A this Thursday, isn't there? Let me just double check that it is this Thursday. I'm sure it is. I am loving BFA because I haven't even played today. Thing is, if I'd have still been trying to do the Mythic raiding, I would have been playing it constantly. And although it wouldn't have been as frantic it has been in the past, because I've had time off, I wouldn't have got anything else done. I've been able to do other things that I'm enjoying as well. So I'm very much enjoying sort of being casual. It's quite nice. It is quite nice. Obviously, there'll be a little bit of, not regret, I'm not going to regret it, but a little bit of missing it when people do start doing the Mythic again. I haven't done any Mythic dungeons now, I have to say. I have to say, actually, in the guild that I've sort of joined just as a social, someone did, a couple of days ago, does anyone want to do King's Rest, which is one of the Mythic-only dungeons? And I didn't say so because I thought my gear would be a little low at the time. But actually, when I think about it, I don't think it would have been. I should have had a go at it anyway. But it doesn't matter. My gear is certainly now good enough to do Mythic Noughts. I've got like 325 item level gear or something like that. Sorry, I was just trying to check something. Hi, Thomas. Thank you. Whereabouts in the UK am I from? I'm from Doncaster, which is in South Yorkshire. But I live in Scunthorpe at the moment. I'm fine with saying where I am. In fact, there is a saying, people from Yorkshire. There was a bishop, I think it was, who once said, never ask a man if he's from Yorkshire, because if he is, then he'll have already told you. And if he isn't, well, there's no point in embarrassing the poor chap. But ultimately, the thing you take from it is people from Yorkshire are perfectly happy to say where they're from. You've done all the Mythics. Not as good as Legions. Oh, well, obviously I've not experienced them on Mythic, but obviously Mythic is no different to Heroic, other than obviously more brutal. But if you're in higher item level, it can seem the same as Heroic, can't it? On the, Mythic Noughts, that is, obviously. I don't know. Part of me wants to agree with you that, my impression at the moment is the dungeons I've tried, in general, I don't enjoy them as much as I did the Legion ones either. But I want to give them a bit of a crack. And have a few more goes at them. Because part of it will, of course, be the fact that I've been doing them in, like, pugs a lot. I've done them with some guild groups as well. Siege of Paralysis and King's Rest. Yeah, I haven't done them at all. Ever. So they are new to me. The quests have been great. The levelling has been very nice. I think the levelling is always nice. You know. In fact, I think when I sort of compare how World of Warcraft has been the last few years as compared to the first few years, I think the levelling is the thing that has improved the most. I wasn't that keen on the levelling experience in TBC, for example, or in Wrath. And it could be argued that I did a lot of it in the beta as well, but not in TBC, and I didn't enjoy that either. Whereas these days, I do much more stuff in beta. Well, I have the last few expansions anyway. And I still enjoy the leveling experience much more than I used to. Freehold's a nice. I like Freehold. I think that's all right. Apart from the greased pig, can be doing without that. I can especially be doing without that when it gets to Mythic Plus where you're on a timer. Well, no. What are my thoughts on how the Azerite traits are working out? Well, you know, I mean, they're just... they're still fixing them, aren't they? They're still sorting them out. And obviously, as they fix them, then, you know, people building Simcraft will also adjust those. They're as expected. You know, if you liken them to the Azerite so the artifact traits, it's the majority of the bulk ones. You haven't really got any of the elite dragony ones in there, have you? But they're okay. Some of them are more interesting than others. Some of them are more useful in certain situations. Like, because I'm casual, I can get away with this. You generally want multiple pieces, though. So there's one trait, for example, I've got on one piece of gear, which is the Crusader Strike one, which is basically use Crusader Strike and it stacks up the amount of damage your next one will do. But for that, you have to constantly be in combat. And it helps to have a reasonable amount of haste as well. But it wouldn't be so good in other bits of content, so... You feel like you want to switch them around. But because I'm not having to min-max at all, I've got the complete freedom of being a casual. I can just do what I like. How do I feel about the dungeon trash density? I think it's okay. You feel like there's quite a lot more trash. I suppose it depends on which dungeon you mean. I'm trying to think of a dungeon where it's really heavily packed. I mean, the start of Freehold is a bit, but I don't think it's that bad. It's just a problem that you can sometimes pull more than you intend to if you're not careful. Again, I haven't done King's Rest or Siege of Paralysis, so I can't talk about that. Motherlode. Motherlode is the one where it's an arsehole. That dungeon is a complete arsehole with the trash. I noticed that because I did actually do that one in the beta as well. And I did it quite early on when it had only just been put into the beta. Or it might have been alpha then, I can't remember. And at the time I thought, this is a nightmare. This is a sadist who has designed this. Surely they're going to tune it down a little bit. And they don't seem to have done. Motherlode is... horrible dungeon. Horrible. It's one of those dungeons where you're glad when you get to the bosses. The bosses are a breeze compared to the trash. Grease Pig is easy. If you target it with right click, your character starts catching it. You just use a speed boost. It's sort of... Yeah, well, obviously I haven't picked up the knack of it doing that yet. But anyway, I can be doing without chasing a greased up pig as part of, an encounter. I mean, I'm not a fan of gimmicks anyway in dungeons and raids. I don't mind them in like world quests or scenarios, but I don't like gimmicks in group stuff at all. So things like that, it's just like, no. I mean, I quite like the ogre with the sharks on his arm. That's fun. But other than that, I don't like it. Motherlode's trash are bad, but the bosses are a joke. Yeah, the bosses are much more straightforward. But the trash is so awful. It's truly awful. Surely it's going to be one of those where if you've got a key, people are just not going to want to do it. Unless I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, with affixes on it as well. It's exactly how Siege of Borealis felt. Trash was harder than the boss. Yeah, I've not done that yet. The Snake Temple dungeon is bad with its gimmicks. I don't know. I don't mind the snake one so much. Obviously, there's, the orb carrying thing, but I don't think that's too bad. I'm okay with that. I'm all right with the... Most of the dungeons, I think, are okay. I've not got any heavy criticism for most of them. But, yeah, the pig... I'm not keen on the greased pig. And I'm not keen on the trash motherload. I think it's too much. I just think it's too much. I mean, the difficulty of the dungeon system now is pushing keys with Mythic Plus anyway. All right, you need something where you're going to have some crowd control as well. But, you know, motherload is just... It's on another level to... At least the other ones that can be done on normal and heroic. Pugging Shrine of the Storm is the worst if people don't... Well, if people don't know things, like anyone who watched me stream the other day, and the thing is, I should have known better because, again, I did that in the beta, but I only did it a couple of times. The main problem with that is the last two bosses, Shrine of the Storm. So the penultimate boss, Lord Storm Song, is... you've got to know that when you get the mind controlling thing that you've got to run through all the orbs. Now... I sort of knew that and then got confused when it happened to me and I was in a pug. And I basically did nothing. And then we wiped, which is my fault. But the thing is, no one said anything. Like, the Warlock didn't say it. The Warlock seemed to know, but he didn't say anything. He just decided to call me a retard, which is fine. But he didn't actually tell me what to do different. So we still pulled. Now, if someone in the stream hadn't have told me, then... I might have done the same bloody thing again. In fact, someone from Blizzard actually was tweeting about that, weren't they? Just saying, look, if you're in a pickup group, instead of just insulting people if you get something wrong, tell them, instruct them. And then the last boss, I remember from beta, is a real issue if you split your forces and you go, some go to one ad, some go to the other, with the big tentacly thing that you have to interrupt. And I remember that in the beta. And then I was doing it yesterday with a guild group, would you believe? Although we weren't on voice comms. And I went to the one that was right next to where we were. And then everyone else went to the other one at the other end of the room for some reason. Don't know what that was about. So that was, you know, that got some casts off as well. But yeah, Shrine of the Storm. But it's going to be one of those. I mean, I don't really want to pug it. I want to do them in, even as a social, I'd want to do them in guild groups on Mythic. And on Heroic, you know, it doesn't really matter. You eventually do it anyway, don't you? Temple is the key killer with the heal boss at the end. And the soaking the boss earlier. Temple. Which one am I thinking? What temple? What temple? Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, the troll one. Yes. Well, the thing is, though, the Yasma boss at the end doesn't seem as hard as it was in the beta. Like, it seems to be more forgiving of people not doing it quite right. Because I haven't wiped on it yet. In the beta, we're wiping it loads of times. In fact, it got to the point where I would just let groups wipe on it a couple of times. Then I would say what to do, and by the time they'd wiped twice, they might be more amenable to it. And the soaking boss, again, seems to be quite forgiving, on Heroic at least. I mean, any of these things, I suppose, when you do it on Mythic, and then you get to Mythic Plus, I mean, the nature of Mythic Plus is when you're going to be pushing a key that's high for your group, you've got to do things correctly. But I think people, obviously, at that point will. In Storm, on the last boss, you wiped 9 times. Oh, dear. No, I haven't had a situation like that where we've wiped repeatedly, at least. I assume you mean on Mythic there. Temple, as a disc priest, the final boss is horrible. Isn't that the one where you just got to kill trash? Isn't that just the trash boss? Is that bad as disc? I don't really know how disc plays now, because I haven't played it with BFA. You can get away with a lot in a guild group. Well, I have pugged a few as well. Oh, I see. Oh, you mean for Mythic? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I was assuming I would probably need gear like 320-ish at least before doing Mythic, but I don't think that's the case from what people have told me. You can do it in way less gear than that. So I probably should have just gone along to it, but, you know. I'm only a social anyway. I don't deserve to go along to these things. Your only real action is hard casting Smite and Penance. Oh, right, okay. Hi, big time. Do I think blacksmithing is worth it for the crafted piece if you plan to raid heroic only? Probably not then. Partly because you can get some 350 BOE legs that are crit haste. And the problem is when you craft your own... I can craft my own legs now in theory, but I haven't got the materials for them. Because I think you need to do Mythic Dungeons for the Hydra Core, don't you? And, you know, okay, the first ones you can craft to 355, but it's random stats you might not get. Whereas the BOE ones are crit haste, which is ideal. And a belt, I've already got the belt. You can get a haste mastery belt, 350 BOE as well. So if you're just doing it for heroic, I would say it's not really worth it getting the professions if you're only getting the professions for that. But I think there are some other benefits to blacksmithing, like the stirrups that you can craft for yourself and will last twice as long. The stirrups are amazing for World Quests, like they were in Legion. The fact that you can interact with things and not get dismounted, you only have to get dismounted when you want to like fight something. That's really good for a lot of World Quests where you just go around clicking on things. How do Ret Palace do in the final boss where you have to heal the boss to win? I just beat stuff up. Yeah, you talk about me. I imagined you were talking about Mythic. But again, even Mythic will be easy if you do it high enough. Like you did it 305 item level. Obviously, that's the item level you have to get before you're even allowed to queue for heroics. You can obviously do your own groups before them. Whereas if you do Mythics in, say, 325 plus item level, I imagine it's no more difficult than heroics on 300 item level or something. Well, you don't get the 15% stat boost when you make your own group in heroics. But yeah, when you queue up, it's very noticeable. You don't have half a hard as a time of it. Evening, Lorenzo. Multi-bot is still better. I mean, there's a few things that are a bit annoying. When you queue up for heroic dungeons, you get a stat boost, don't you? So you're way stronger in a heroic dungeon if you've done Lucky for Dungeon than if you just got a group and went to the dungeon. You like Motherload. You are a masochist. Especially in Mythic Plus. You think it's good that in some dungeons have harder trash. Yeah, but you make the trash harder with the affixes and the extra the thing of the keys. Basically, I'm not going to say it's going to be on the same level as Shadow Labs was in TBC, but it has that danger. And Shadow Labs was bad for the same reason. All right, in the case of Shadow Labs, a couple of the bosses were also arseholes, but ultimately it was because of the sheer amount and nastiness of the trash. Groups having to change their strategies is, of course, what Mythic Plus is all about. The fact that you're supposed to change how the way you do things according to not only the group you've got, but most especially the affixes that you've got that week. Speaking of which, people in North America seemed to think they were getting a world boss a couple of weeks early, didn't they? Blizzard let a quest go live accidentally. But never mind, it soon got sorted. I think you always want to be suspicious if anything strange happens on reset day in North America. You think it represents Mythic Plus difficulty if you're doing 10s for max reward? You had no idea the stat buff? Oh, okay. I think they did a good job with the variety of dungeons. I do agree that there's a good variety of dungeons. I agree with that. I think they all have their unique character. But I think the same was true in Legion as well. And I think, you know, by and large, I'm not going to say I think the Legion ones were loads better. I just, you know, at the moment I feel that they were a bit better. But it's difficult to compare because I was doing them for two different ways. US servers are beta testers indeed, yes. If tank does proper pulls, mother load should be fairly easy. Well, there is, yes, obviously the tank controlling the ads that you pull and not pulling too much is good. What annoyed the hell out of me when I was doing some pugs yesterday was a tank, it might have been the day before actually, a tank that was pulling multiple groups but wasn't able to keep aggro on them. Annoyed the hell out of me when they do that. When they just go around and grab as much as they can but they can't actually hold on to them. Pissing about. I'll get anything new tomorrow. I don't know. I'm a bit out of it now that I don't need to know these things. I don't think so. Let me think. I think Mythic Plus comes out on the week that normally Heroic Raids come out, which is not this week. So I think we've just got another week. It might be something. But I think we've just got another week of stuff, as far as I know. On the heal boss, still most important for us to act as DPS because the toad adds... Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely smash the toads in. The trash is harder than bosses on Mythic. What? In which... on what? If you're talking about Motherload again, then yeah, it's the same on any difficulty. I see now. Word of Glory. Now, of course, you should take that in a dungeon. At the moment, I'm not because I'm mostly pugging. And, I mean, I am exclusively pugging heroics. So, I'm not actually taking that at the moment. I'm taking Selfish Healer because I don't trust the healers to heal me. And several times I've been right. And I've had to save myself in a situation where Word of Glory wouldn't have saved me. But yes, in general, Word of Glory is loads better in BFA than it is in Legion. And it'd be quite nice if I can start joining proper groups for Mythics. Then I'll take that as my default choice. Is it too late to get the spell wing? The what? Oh, is that a mount? Don't know. Sounds like a mount, but I don't know what that is, I'm afraid. I'm not a mounts person. Someone else may know. Oh, yeah, that was a point. I was trying to look something up, wasn't I? Yes, it is. It's this Thursday that Blizzard are doing their next Q&A. Ian has accosted us again. So I don't know if that means that they're going to be discussing anything that's been cropping up in interviews, particularly with the faction stuff, but I doubt they'll say anything. Oh, okay. Yes, it would be. Ahead of the curve for anything past expansions is definitely gone. Yes, well, that's why I call it Selfish Healer now. Because, yeah, it used to do more healing if you used it on someone else, hence the name Selfless Healer. That you're sacrificing a GCD to help someone else. But now, no. It's like, no, it'll do just as much healing on you as anyone else. So, might as well be used on me. Let some other bugger die so I can get a Retribution passive. Because, you know, that's my class fantasy. You've got to stick to your class fantasy, especially when you're casual. He will say, just we are at Gamescom. No, they're bound to... They didn't have to do the Q&A today. It's not like it was scheduled. They never schedule these things months in advance. There's no regular thing with it. There's clearly things they're quite happy to talk about, which is why they'll be doing it this Thursday. Have I seen the Blizzard Gamescom key art? No, I haven't. Let's have a look. course, the last year's one was Jaina, wasn't it? Oh, let's have a look here. Oh, there's Terali in there still. Is that right? Is that this year's? No, that might not be this year's. Let me have a look. Let's put 2018 in. Oh, there we go. That's better. It sort of looks like Terralion, but he's in a space suit, so I think that's probably a whatchamacallit instead. What's the Starcrafty thing? Lady Vash, Irel, so you can piss off. Yeah. Although that might be a Heroes of the Storm thing, mightn't it? Oh, is Draenor EU still bad? Well, I suppose if you've got lag, it at least means you're online, which was not the state I gathered when the expansion actually went live. Do I feel compelled in doing island expeditions? Well, I do, but I haven't done any. I haven't done. I need to do some because obviously I need to do them to be able to access the next bit of research on my boat. We've gone from a garrison to an order hall to a boat. But I've got to do my research for my boat. And I haven't done any islands yet. And obviously my neck is a huge drag at the moment because it's only like level 14, like proper slacking. And obviously islands would help with that. I've got Azerite pieces that I can't unlock all the traits for because I've been lazy. Or it's not, in the case of islands, it's not so much lazy as scared to join a group for it. But I need to do it. The last Warbringers and some Azshara announcements by the look of it. Yes, well that was what I was thinking of actually with Gamescom because like when they announced the Warbringers at first, you expected it to be a once per week thing, didn't you? And that's not what we got. So yes, you would certainly expect the Azshara Warbringer to be at Gamescom. I think you could bet your house on that. World quests give more sometimes. I haven't even been doing all the world quests. I've been doing the emissaries. I've not been missing those out. But then that is not as big a deal as it was in Legion, because in Legion gave you a chance of a legendary. But yeah, I haven't even been doing all the world quests. I've really just been playing every now and then, spending all my gold. I've only got like 100k gold now altogether. Like poor. I've never been that poor for I don't know how many years. I think islands. See, if islands are not the most efficient way to get artifact power, at least for doing a couple of them a week, then they fail completely. Because it doesn't matter how good or how interesting the content is. It's a novel. The whole nature of it is it's a novelty, which is nice. But if it doesn't reward anything, and the only thing it rewards is artifact power, so if it doesn't do a good job of that, that will be a big fail for them. Because it's the key thing for BFA. Like, it's the key piece of new content for BFA. And the idea of these smart NPCs is supposed to be something that they trying out to be able to use in other aspects of the game as well. What's the AP mechanic in BFA? So, yeah, instead of increasing the amount you get from artifact... Hold on. How's it working? Basically, you're going to... It reduces the amount you need, is the way it's supposed to work. So, stuff will still be worth the same amount of AP as it was. But you will need less as the stuff the catch-up builds up. Oh, hold on. Is something changed there? Because that's what I thought it was, Terence. But not necessarily every week. I don't know that it was supposed to start immediately. Warbringers has been released the 24th. That'll be Friday then, won't it? Don't be scared of islands. Most people have no clue. That's what I'm scared of. You know, Dakeshi was tweeting the other day that he signed up to an island. He said it would have been all right, but one of the people there insisted on exploring the island. So he's going in to try and get his bloody Azerite. Some other bugger's going, oh, pretty island. I'm going to go and have a little wander. Because I remember doing it on the beta, and you need to stay together. So, yeah, it's the fact that people are clueless is what scares me. Islands are only good up to completing the weekly chest. After that, yeah, okay, that's fine then. Yeah, I don't think the knowledge rank was supposed to start immediately, Malinoric. That was what I thought as well. As long as you prioritise collecting Azerite and kill Horde if and when they attack you. Well, it is, unless you all split up, in which case you're not very likely to be able to beat up the Horde. That's the problem. If you split up, you can't really take on all three of them at once, so you're not supposed to be able to. Unless I suppose you're doing it on too easy a level. So... But I'll have to give it a go. I'm not going to bother for this week, obviously. I'll wait till tomorrow for the reset. And then, at some point... Maybe tomorrow when I'm streaming I'll do some, I don't know, we'll see. I'll try to get into some Mythic dungeons if I can as well. Who's splitting up in island expeditions? People who want to explore the island. It is like splitting. It's worse than splitting up in an arena. In many ways. But anyway. Because you might have some good reason to do it in an arena. Do I find rep boring in BFA? No, I find it way better than in Legion. Much better. Well, the thing is, yeah, in terms of finding... I don't know that I will be able to find people to do Mythic Pluses, given that I'm not expecting to be on a lot. Obviously, if I was going to be on a lot... then eventually I would. So that remains to be seen. However, although I've seen people asking in Guild, oh, who wants to do these Mythic dungeons? I've never seen anyone ask, oh, who wants to do islands? But again, you may be right. Once we settle into it properly, it may just be, just do it with Guild is maybe the easiest way to do it. 300 Azerite for 10 minutes in a Mythic island isn't bad. Isn't it? 300 Azerite's not much, is it? Yeah, well, again, when it comes to world quests, you see, I'm not even doing all the world quests, so... Tank, healer, DPS in Mythic. Yeah, your neck at 80, so mine's just at 14. Been lazy. Very lazy. I could do with it at least being at 17, because that would unlock another round of Azerite traits, but, you know. Again, the content I'm going to be doing is not as much as it is for some. I mean, the other way of, obviously, with the neck, what's more important, as important, I should say, sorry, is getting the Champions of Azeroth rep, and that's where, again, I'll be behind because I haven't been doing all the world quests, which means I haven't been getting full benefit out of the contracts I have with them. I haven't even, if truth be told, been doing all of the Champions of Azeroth world quests, which is naughty. You don't even have Azerite traits right now. You're doing the world quest to level up the 7th Legion rep. Why not the Champions of Azeroth rep? Hi, Kiri. Yes, Mythical Deer, the last trait's 31, isn't it? I think it used to be 33 and it moved it down or something. I don't remember now. But I don't have to worry about that. Well, I say that. I suppose once you get, once you get into a pattern of doing plus 10s with Mythic plus dungeons, then you could be getting Azerite pieces that will require the same amount to I imagine the ones you get on plus 10 from the chest will be the same, I think. I don't know, I've not checked. I would imagine they are. Oh, you just want to unlock your... Is it really worth it for a Zandalari troll or... For the Dark Iron Paladin... Dark Iron Dwarf. it might be worth it because, you know, get the mole machine. I'm not so worried about it. I haven't got any particular use for a Zandalari troll at the moment, so I'm not that bothered. I haven't leveled up. I was going to level up my druid. People keep saying though how shit feral druid is at the moment, so I'm thinking, oh crap, that's what I would intend to play it as, because I'm not playing Boomkin. Can't be doing with their hooting. The Dark Iron Dwarf Paladin does look good. It is, you know, potentially worth... I do sometimes wonder if maybe... if eventually when I get up to doing something on the North American accounts that I have, where I have an Alliance Paladin, and I unlock it, maybe I'll change it to a Dark Iron Dwarf, because the mount does look very nice. And you don't have to worry about leveling one up because the heritage armor looks appalling. Dark Iron will be formidable tanks. They'll be quite useful for everything. Because the thing about their racial buff, they've got quite a few good racials, but the racial buff, which is good enough on its own, but it gives you even more stat if it can remove debuffs. Is there a rep you want to cap out first? Yeah, Champions of Azeroth. And if you're talking about rets with crit and haste, generally speaking, haste will be worth more. But if you sim yourself and you're finding that crit's worth more, that suggests that you've got a decent amount of haste, but not very much crit. Yes, the movement speed in dungeons is you know, 4% extra movement speed, not to be sniffed at. But they're quite a good choice for, I think, anyone in a dungeon situation. Or maybe not so much healer. But maybe, I don't know. Well, it does depend a little bit on talents. Also traits, because you've got to remember some of the traits interact with crit. But all these things, because they're quite close, like they were in Legion together, if you start to get ahead with one, then others start to look a bit better for a certain amount of it. I mean, that's why you're always better just simming gear and seeing if it's an upgrade or not, and then sometimes mixing a few things around. But if you had to be led by anything, you know, crit, that's why I held off. Like when I was looking at the BOE 350 weapons, there were a few things I could have got for just about 500,000 gold, but the crit haste axe was what I actually wanted. So I waited for the price to come down, and then it eventually came down to like 550,000 or something, and got it then. But unfortunately, the WoW token is really worthless at the moment, so I'm hoping it's going to creep up a bit, and then I might get a couple of those and get some more. When hopefully those BOEs, if I still need them, will be even cheaper. Because I'll be pretty much the only person that does still need them, I hope. Is it worth buy a weapon? Well, that all depends on how much gold. It's like anything. Is it worth buying it? Depends how much gold you've got. If you've got enough gold, yeah. EU token just hit 199k. It's going down and down and down. You know, with every day of this expansion, it's just got lower and lower and lower. That's not a pun, by the way. I just realised I made a funny without realising it. So, you know, weapons are still... They're not worth as much as they used to be before they changed how abilities work. But they are still worth more than a single other piece of gear. But let's say for the same price as a 350 weapon, you could get 4 350 bits of armor, then you'd probably do that. The wild token will be down for a while. Yeah, well, I was wondering about that. Is it because Do you get, like, when you buy the expansion, do you get free game time? Well, I say free, included game time with it or something? Is that why people coming back to it and having to buy WoW tokens? Because they're getting it with the actual expansion upgrade? I don't know. Oh, I don't do speculation in the game, though. I'm not very good at it. I'm when it comes to making gold, I'm absolutely dreadful. This is why in the last few months I've changed realms twice and attempted to mule some gold across. And, well, the last time I did it, I failed miserably. You only get time with the base game, not with expansion. That's a bit mean, isn't it? I wonder why it's gone down so much then. The new Storm all sells for about 20k per 200. That sounds fairly stable. That was what I was paying for it myself. Because, I mean, that was the thing with the blacksmithing. I managed to get that for gold. Because, again, with not having much... If I'd have had loads of gold, I wouldn't have cared about it. But because I didn't, I had to make sure I was also selling stuff. So I took advantage of the fact I was being casual and focused... Rather than doing dungeon stuff, I focused on my professions. Buying all the ore and stuff I needed. Getting my blacksmithing up. But selling any of the good pieces I crafted. And I managed to get all my gold back. So I made skilling up my inscription, jewel crafting and blacksmithing. It's not up to full, but to where it needed to be. And I made it sort of neutral. The enchants are what are not selling. Enchanting is a worthless profession now. Completely worthless. If it weren't for the fact that I've been an enchanter since vanilla, I'd have removed it and got something else. Because it's utterly worthless. Your brother stopped playing WoW a month or two into Legion. At the time he had 200,000 gold. Convert to Blizzard balance, then buy tokens with that balance. I don't know how it all works. What do I think of islands? I only tried them in the beta. The impression I got in the beta was novelty. You know, it's all right to do one now and then, but I don't see it. I see it wearing off very quickly for me. I don't think they're that fun, really. They're a cute idea, but I don't think they're really that fun. Just wait until the raid releases Enchanting. I don't think it'll be good even then. Because raid guilds are going to have people who can provide the enchants with them. They just, you know, give them the mats or something. And the problem is, and this has been a problem with enchanting for a couple of expansions now, you need your ring enchanting. And your weapon. And that's basically it. You know, there's glove enchants, but that's only for crafting. And they're worthless. You've got wrist enchants is only for enchanters. That's their specific thing there. So it's rings and weapon. And you don't replace... Well, it's only 3 bits of gear, which you don't replace very often. You don't need that many. I mean, it was a problem in Legion as well. You like the themes of Horde and Alliance zones? I don't know. I mean, you still get to do both of them. There's quests in both of them. Did they remove cloak and neck enchants? Well, yeah. They removed neck enchants because you've just got an artifact neck now and you don't enchant artifacts. Because that's a bit like being told, oh, you've been given this mighty gift from the Titan Azeroth herself. And you turn around and going, do you know what? I think I can make it even better. So that's a bit cheeky, so they don't let you do that. And cloaks, yeah. There are cloak enchants, but tailor spell threads, which again, only tailors could use. So tailors get to enchant their cloaks. I suppose engineers technically, do they still get them stuff to put on, tinkers to put on cloaks? I don't know. But tailors get to. The cloaks are gone because it's now a tailor thing. They've given professions a thing now. So they keep doing it, don't they? They keep giving professions a thing. to make them special, and then they take it away again, and then they bring it back, and it's like they can't make their mind up on it. So now there's a special thing. So enchanters get a enchant, which is actually quite nice, because if you put the cooled hearth thing on your wrist, then it means your Hearthstone's got a 4-minute cooldown on Kulturas or Zandalar, which is bloody handy. And if you've got enchanting, then you can enchant your cloak. And I can't remember what the others have. The others have stuff as well. Remember when blacksmiths could add sockets? They still can. Can still add sockets. Do you know what? You've just reminded me. I've forgotten to do it. They haven't changed this, unless they've changed it like this week, and I haven't noticed. The belt buckles can still be used on the gear we have now, because when they did the item level squish, they forgot to do it on the belt buckles. They forgot. So you can use the belt buckles, the living steel belt buckle, on anything up to item level 600. I imagine they'll get around to changing it. It's not a new belt buckle, though. It's an old belt buckle. It is working. Yeah. Well, it never stopped working. It always did what it did. What I mean is Blizzard need to squish it. And as far as I know at the moment, it hasn't. It certainly hadn't as of a few days ago. So you can buy it. You don't have to do it yourself, though. You can. It's not bop. You can just get a blacksmith to make you one. They're probably still on the auction house. If they still work, they'll still be on the auction house. If you were to level up an alt monk, that might be a top choice. They are very good. I was doing a dungeon yesterday with a monk, and every now and then on trash, they just kick the shit. When I say every now and then, it's quite regular. They kick the shit out of it. Absolutely, like, ridiculous damage they were doing. And it wasn't just someone way better geared than me, because they weren't always. I was generally getting the better of them on like single target or 2 target stuff like that. But when it came to like a group of trash, they were blowing the shit out of it. They sell for 3k on your realm. So if they're still selling, they're still working. I mean, just have a look at it. If it says it'll do something up to item level 600, it's not an error on the tooltip. It actually works. I mean, you have just reminded me. I just got one of the 350 BOE belts, and I need to craft myself another one and put it on. Blizzard spies watching the stream. Blizzard don't watch the stream. Well, you say belt buckles are going to be patched ASAP. I'm sure they know about it. These people, you know, despite what we sometimes think when they do mad things, they do play the game. They will absolutely know about this. They just haven't got around to fixing it yet. They obviously don't care about an extra gem. I can understand why they wouldn't care during the pre-patch. But if it's still like that now, and as I say, I only know it was still like that as a few days ago. I haven't, in all honesty, checked the last few days. And I haven't seen it in a hotfix, but then they don't record all their hotfixes. Sometimes they fix hundreds of things, and they just tell you about the dozen most interesting ones. Legion enchanting does indeed have upper limit, so you can't just enchant your cloak with a Legion enchant. That doesn't work, indeed. Does the stacking Crusader Strike trait stack? I don't know that one, actually. I'm not sure. Best way would be to sim it, because I'm pretty sure the people who've done Simcraft know. I'm not going to ask them just now, actually. They'll all be doing stuff. But I don't know. Sorry, I don't know. Windwalker was last year in the gaming world? No. There were times in Legion when they were strong as well. They were a bit up and down. It sort of depended whenabouts in Legion, but they were strong in at times in Legion they were strong. They're spies. You're not actually supposed to know if they're actually watching. The thing is, there are so many people do World of Warcraft streams. They're not going to watch all of them. I'm pretty sure they're not going to watch this one. But if they are, then remove Gnomes. It's getting ridiculous now. Yes, well, Simcraft will have been doing a lot of nightly updates. The thing is, there are still some things in it that are not working properly. You know, it has to be borne in mind, at these times, You will get things that are just not working properly in Simcraft. It's not going to be perfect at the moment. And then Blizzard monkey about with things as well. Sometimes as well, the way something works in Simcraft is correct in a way, but the item is bugged in game. So it's still not an accurate reflection of how it works as well. It's all very messy. And until Blizzard have basically fixed and tuned everything, Simcraft is going to be quite... For some things, not most things. Most things are fine. But for some things, it's going to be a little unstable from that point of view. For example, trinkets. Some cunning trinkets. It does stack, but sucks. All your class-specific traits blown away by the piece-specific one. Oh. The best trait so far was the quest scrolls that made bubbles spawn that increased AP. Windwalker Monk. It went crap in Nighthold. No, it wasn't crap in Emerald Nightmare. There was some people doing... I saw some people doing some stunning damage with it in Emerald Nightmare and Trial of Valor. And then it became amazing in Antorus. Antorus, it was stunning. Remove now. What do you mean, why? I've got playlists. Go and watch the playlists. It's all very obvious. The trinkets seem boring so far. I quite like boring. But no, I don't necessarily agree. I think there are a variety of trinkets. They do what trinkets always do. You get some of them that just do a mad thing. You get some of them that are on use. You get some of them that summon a little monkey or something that does damage. I think you've got the same range of them that we always have had. But I'm not keen on gimmicky trinkets. Anyway, I want reliable trinkets, preferably. Like, I got a 325 trinket, which technically might be better than the 315 one that I'm wearing. But I'm not using it because it's the big red button. Now, I don't mind that as such, but when you use it, you have to then place it as well. Which for some people they might not mind, but I don't like it. I have got Fathoms, yes. Just simply because I'm like heroic geared. I'm not doing loads of mythic dungeons or anything like that. So it's 350 item level as opposed to the 315 item level one I replaced it with. So the fact that they've then nerfed it by 9% is annoying, but it's not a disaster because, well, do you know what? It's still way better than the 315 one I had. Can links be posted on the YouTube stream? I have no idea. You could try. I don't know. Hi, Rusty. I'm pretty sure you've been on before, haven't you? I seem to recall your avatar thing. Yeah, you leave it in your macro as a use for, so yeah, 13, 14 you can use. I tend to do it as 13, then I can put it in the top one. The reason I do that, well, it's largely historical. You don't know whether to go with a haste strength proc or a strength haste proc ret. Oh, for trinkets. I mean, just have to sim, but for me personally, if I had a choice, I would tend to prefer the haste with a strength proc because I don't like haste procs because it mucks about with the speed at which things come off cooldown, your global cooldowns, and it messes about with me. Like, I get used to it. Well, I used to get used to it during Crusade, and these days during Heroism, you get the idea that it's particularly the faster global cooldowns. But, you know, I mean, I'll have to get used to it because the weapon enchant that's looking best at the moment is the haste proc one. So I'm going to have a haste proc anyway. Even my non-WoW stuff. Well, there's going to be an increasing amount of non-WoW stuff. That is the plan. In fact, you know what? That Lord of the Rings series has got to carry on now because the last one I did, someone put a comment on it saying that their 10-year-old nephew looks forward to it every week. And I thought, oh no, I can't disappoint a 10-year-old. So that's it. That's happening. That's the thing now. I was planning on it anyway, but still, can't stop it now. You've got the 340 version, and it's a waste to use. Only does like 9k on AoE. Oh, the big red button, yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't use it for AoE situations because yeah, it splits it. I used to. I mean, 2-minute cooldown, so you can use it with wings. I used to wait for when there was just one target. When I sim for upgrades, how big does the upgrade have to be for me to want to equip it? If I don't really want to equip it, it's got to be at least 2% for me. Given that I'm not going to be a Mythic Raider, if it's something I'm not going to enjoy using, if it's something I don't care about, then whatever, upgrade's an upgrade. But I think at least 2%, it's got to be a clear upgrade. Your 10-year-old nephew really enjoyed watching me stream Mythic Raids. No, they didn't. Hardly anyone watched me stream Mythic Raids. But, oh dear. Anyway. Using damage trinkets with wings isn't a thing anymore. Well, you're still doing extra damage. Combining damage abilities together still benefit, wing still does 20% extra damage. First expansion, you don't do Mythic or the Harley's Progress Raid, yeah. It's much more relaxed, isn't it? I was, at first when I made the decision, I was thinking I'm going to be wasting this because this is the first time ever that Blizzard have brought out an expansion when I'm off work. And now, see, at first when the announcement was first made, and at that point I was absolutely going to be doing Mythic Raiding, and I thought something's going to happen. I'm going to have an accident or be in hospital. Something is going to happen to stop me taking advantage of this. And in a way it did. I stopped Mythic Raiding. So I've probably spent no more time playing WoW in the last week when a new expansion's come out than I used to when we were into like farm mode. The damage bonus of wings doesn't apply to trinkets anymore. No, but when a trinket buffs your primary stat, you are still getting the benefit of using it with wings. I know with the big red button specifically, yes, that's a different thing. But generally speaking, something that has a 2-minute cooldown is what I'm trying to say as a trinket is highly desirable for me. Oh, hi, Liquid, yes. Right. Yes, it's a bit weird. I've actually had quite a few more subscribers this last week than normal. I think it must just be, because it's certainly nothing to do with anything I've been putting on the channel. I haven't even got around to updating my add-ons videos yet, which I do need to do. I think it's just people. I think just a new expansion, more people look up stuff. Yeah, big red button. Big red button is just, I don't like it. I don't like it. That's why I don't use it, even though it's high. I keep it for the item level to bung up my, in case I need to wangle myself into a group that says, oh, you're 0.3 item level lower than we need you to be. Oh, I'll just equip this then. Really wish they'd give rating classes that depend on haste. Some base haste. Well, I mean, see, you've got to think about it this way. They don't care about that because remember they've introduced more downtime in BFA than has been the case in the past. That's deliberate. They want us to slow down. I mean, it's not a massive amount. I don't want to blow it out of proportion. But they actually want us to be a little bit slower. Not just Rets, everyone. That was a quite deliberate strategy. So they're certainly not going to give us extra base haste. Because that... Well, I was going to say because that works against that other philosophy. However, it wouldn't be the first time they brought out two conflicting philosophies. They've done that before. In fact, they've done it in BFA. You think BFA's turned out to be your all-time favourite expansion, really? I'm not sure it's mine. It has potential. I think that's the best way I can describe it at the moment. It has potential. But it has to realise that potential before I will say whether or not I think it's, from a storyline point of view, going to be better or not. I mean, I don't think it can fail than to be better than WoD, because right from the start I hated WoD, just from, not in terms of content, but in terms of the fact that it was time travel and alternate universe. My opener on boss fights, so assuming I'm using Inquisition, I would start with, well, depends on how far away you're on from boss. Judgment and Blade of Justice in some order, then Inquisition, then Avenging Wrath, then if I'm taking Wake of Ashes, and then into Spending. If I'm not taking Wake of Ashes, then into Building and Spending. You like vanilla? Vanilla I very much liked in terms of the exploration. I suppose when any MMO comes out, the exploration aspect of it is always going to be better in the base game than in the expansions. That being said, I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking that actually for Elder Scrolls Online that's not true. I think they managed to keep it always as good because of the nature of the way that game works, but in a lot of MMOs. Because a lot of MMOs, when an expansion comes out, it has this theme, whereas the base game has multiple themes you can explore. No execution sentence. Well, maybe. It depends. At the moment, it's not simming well enough. But they haven't finished tuning yet. I would expect them to tune execution sentence to the point where it would work better. But at the moment, they're not. So what you would do if you had execution sentence is then you would still do your Blade of Justice, Judgment, Inquisition, Avenging Wrath, Wake of Ashes, but then execution sentence. ESO exploration is superb. It's absolutely magnificent. In fact, the only gripe I have with it is the fact that at the start, when you create a new character, it always assumes you want to start off in the latest expansion zones, because of course level scaling can do what you want. Whereas I think it would be much better if it gave you a choice. Because you can muck up the story if you do that. Well, see, I've never played any of the other Elder Scrolls games. In fact, who knows when this Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, which has now been sort of announced, hasn't it? It's been announced there's going to be one, but I don't think there's been many details yet. Maybe I'll get it. Maybe that will be the first single-player game I'll have bought for, God knows how many years. When was that? God, I can't even think. I cannot even think of the last single-player game I bought. I'm not even sure that I've bought one since World of Warcraft came out. I think the last single-player game I may have bought was X2. Jesus. I can't think of one. Do I think Inquisition is going to be the new Crusade? No, I don't at all. I think there'll be different ones for different situations. There's a lot of variation in that. There are different scenarios where, like for dungeons, for example, I mean, Inquisition will always be useful because you can keep that up in dungeons, but Divine Purpose can be just as good or better. Hammer of Wrath now seems higher for you than yeah. Well, the thing is with Hammer of Wrath and Blade of Justice, you've got that seesawing based on your stats. You know, high mastery is going to favour Hammer of Wrath. You know, other things are going to... Low mastery is not. Oh, yeah, I liked Haley. I also liked the same of Brabham, the same author, brought out a game years later called Frontier. That was quite good as well. I like that. There were a few little gripes I had with it, but by and large, I thought that was pretty good. Upgrade to Elite. But I don't think I would anymore. I used to like it. But I'm not so sure now. There's quite a lot of games I used to play and used to like. Like something like Heroes of the Storm, there was a time when I would have loved that game. But not anymore. So tastes have definitely changed more towards pure fantasy role-playing games now. Can't really imagine doing anything else. I mean, of course, you know, something else could come along. But I used to play quite a mix of games, you know, so... But no. I mean, 3D Pool and FIFA were a couple of sporting ones I had when I first got that. What do I think about BFA Holy? Oh, I have tried Holy, actually. I can't really compare it, you see, because I've never healed properly, or I haven't healed properly for several years. And I haven't healed progress for even more than that. So I can't compare it to Legion. I have healed with BFA Holy. But I have no idea whether I was doing anything good or not. So I cannot possibly have a comment on that, really. Because I had to heal some of our final, or a couple of the bosses on our final Antorus raids. I had to heal Mythic Agrimar one time. Oh dear. And Iminar. Except I was only in on Iminar to provide a devotion aura at one point. I did sod all healing because it was like, it was very sudden. Oh, change to healer. I thought, oh shit. Not expecting this. And I don't think in the end my devotion aura was even, I used it anyway, but I don't think it was even needed in the end. So, yes. I've not really practiced healing at any length. I'm not saying I did sort of say for BFA I might do a bit of holy. But equally I might not. I don't know. Your first time healing since Burning Crusade was Agrimar Mythic. Yes, that would be a trial by fire. Because people go out of their way to try and get themselves killed on that fight. Hi, Wormtongue. Have we talked about Azerite traits or trinkets? A little bit, not necessarily the ones you're thinking of. Oh, the B one, yeah. I haven't got the B one. I ain't got enough gold for it. I mean, Fathoms, of course, has been nerfed. Daggers in the Dark, do you mean... What is it? I forgot what it's called now. It's not... You're not actually thinking of Daggers in the Dark, are you? Dagger in the Back, is that the trait you meant? The only way you could go to Coven was switch to Holy. Well, I suppose that's understandable as well. Melee were a bit of a problem. Yeah, Dagger in the Back. I mean, there's two issues with Dagger in the Back. One is that it wasn't assigning its damage correctly. So sometimes your damage was going on to another person's on the damage meters. And of course, damage meters are super crucial. So that's been fixed, I think. But the other thing is, there's a lot of people going, oh yeah, Dagger isn't working very well because they're using it in dungeons. Well, of course, that's, at the moment, that's the main piece of content. It's not going to work great in dungeons because you're going to keep losing your stacks, aren't you? But on a boss fight, could be really good. See no reason why we can't have Blessing of Salvation back. I see no reason why we can't have a whole host. Yeah, Blessing of Salvation, Blessing of Sacrifice, without actually it being a sacrifice. I'd prefer that. And Blizzard should have done that as well. Ian Hazacosta said he agreed with the fact that Legion was less class fantasy than spec fantasy, and the actual fact that utility should be class-wide and not spec-specific, with the exception of some healer ones. So if Protection Paladins get Blessing of Sacrifice, which they do, so should I, which I don't. So he lied about that, which I'm not happy about. Yeah, we dagger in the back. The Sims that you're looking at will be based on Patchwork Sims, 5 Minute Fight, all the rest of it. That's not necessarily the Sims you want to be looking at for a dungeon. Yes, well, Blessing of Salvation would certainly get some use now, wouldn't it? Like, some tanks are perfectly good. Like, I was doing a dungeon yesterday with some people from the guild, and the tank there, when I was doing that, had no trouble keeping threat. And he wasn't a well-geared tank either. You know, it was all right, but he wasn't, like, massively stupidly geared, and that's why he was holding threat. He just was holding threat. Whereas some of these plebs I've been going in with, especially, as I say, the ones who go around, run around grabbing a load of mobs, and then can't even bloody well hold aggro on them. What do I think will be announced at Gamescom? Well, I mean, the Warbringer, the Azshara Warbringer is a no-brainer. In terms of actual announcements, maybe. I don't know, it seems a bit early to announce any new content for BFA because we haven't even had the raid out. It just seems a bit of a weird time. Obviously, Gamescom happens when Gamescom happens. But I don't really know what they may not announce anything significant for World of Warcraft because they don't have to. The expansion's only just come out. It might seem a bit early to announce the new dungeon. I suppose the main thing will be the actual Azshara raid because we've had no information on the Azshara raid. I mean, in Legion in the beta, we tested, like Nighthold was the equivalent one there, and we tested it. There's been no testing of it at all. So I suppose Azshara raid info with some attached storyline to it, I guess. Well, Gamescom is always pre-BlizzCon from that point of view. But they can still announce things. But at the moment, it's just a weird time. I mean, BlizzCon would be obviously a much better time to be announcing a new dungeon as well. They haven't said anything about the build-up to this show raid. No, they haven't said anything at all. You know, the only thing we know about it is that there's a raid with Azshara in it. That's it. That is the sum total of our knowledge, really. There's leaks from Gamescom. Yeah, but leaks or someone making shit up. It's only a leak if it's like a cinematic or something. Something official that sort of says, yes, someone hasn't just made this up. No, they've already done their crying about story criticism. It's already done that. Thing is, Anduin and Sylvanas had their chance to go at it together, and they didn't. They just all let each other go. Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. You know, that's what I mean. If the BFA story doesn't like shape up to be at least the overall story looked at it from a distance, if that doesn't shape up to be any good, then I'm going to be well annoyed with it because when you look at it in fine detail, it's a shambles. Talking about Queen Azshara, the third. Well, yeah, the third Warbringer story inevitably will be their reveal at Gamescom. That's certain. Oh, it's someone with form, is it? Well, it may or may not be true then. Doesn't really matter. I mean, we'll find out soon enough. There's only a few days. There's no way Blizzard didn't plan the backlash they received. There's absolutely a way because the problem is, yes, I understand that a lot of people are upset just because of the way the story is going. For me, that's not what's upsetting. For me, what's upsetting is the fact that they have mucked things up, as in they've got details raw, like contradictory, or motivations don't make sense. That's the issue for me. And they can absolutely not expect a backlash on that, because if they thought it didn't make sense, surely they would have done something to make it make sense. The Old Soldiers cinematic. See, I don't understand how that placated so many people. That just made me even madder. I thought it was appalling. Like, cinematically it wasn't. Obviously, the cinematics are always awesome. But the Old what the Old Soldier was telling, the fact that that placated people, I just thought, you know what, I'm on a completely different level to everyone. I can't understand where people are coming from, where that made things seem better somehow instead of worse. And Zoth, of course, is the narrative. But this is the thing I keep saying. You know, the title of the expansion is Battle for Azeroth. And the way you're supposed to be thinking about it is, oh, it's the Alliance and the Horde fighting for control of Azeroth. No, it's not. It's Battle for Azeroth, as in for Azeroth the Titan. You know, I mean, our artifacts, the main piece of game gear, is to do with the Titan story. So this is absolutely Old Gods. All right, there's going to be this faction narrative there. But that's, you know, that's just a side thing. Iron Templar. Sylvanas hasn't changed. I think she has changed. No, I do think she genuinely sacrificed for her people at one time. Whereas now she sees them as her playthings almost, or at least her pawns. And she doesn't brook any dissension. I don't think that was the case before. I think basically the way Nathanos was written in the book before the storm, I think that's how Sylvanas used to be. So she had that edge. She was a hard person, but she did at least care very much about her own Forsaken. So I think there has been a subtle change there. But I don't think it's been a contradictory change. I think it has. I think the groundwork has been laid for that. So I have no issue with Sylvanas' motivations. I only have issue with the fact that she said she wanted to kill Malfurion and she didn't. And I also have issue with the fact that she was allowed for some reason to get within inches of Anduin and didn't slit his throat before jumping up into the blimp. Love when I get worked up about lore. I don't get worked up about lore. I get worked up about stupidity. When they do, because I find it insulting. I find it insulting that little things like this should ever be allowed to happen. If there was a proper system of, like, let's say this was a television program where you had an editor and you had a writer who sent in a script to the editor. There is no way an editor would let something like that through. The problem at Blizzard is they don't have that system. Some of the people putting these ideas in are so senior that there is no one overseeing their stuff and saying, no, that's stupid, don't do that. Undead Sylvanas hasn't changed. No. I still think there's a significant change between Sylvanas at the time of Wrath of the Lich King and Sylvanas now. But as I said, I don't see it as a problem. I don't think it contradicts the way she's been going. So I'm okay with that. They might be pushing the faction war, but they're definite Old Gods. The whole thing is Old Gods. This is an Old Gods expansion. Absolutely, mark my words. Just as Legion was a Legion expansion, this is an Old Gods expansion. And the end boss isn't Sylvanas. It's Unzoth or something similar. You know, I mean, they couldn't make it any clearer. The first raid, Uldir is a place, it's a facility for working out how to kill Old Gods without damaging the Titan host. That's what its purpose is. This is absolutely about Old Gods. Now see how thick Anduin's armour was. His helmet wasn't on. His face and neck were exposed. She's got daggers about her. She has daggers. She could have easily swiped one out. Easy piece of piss. But the fact of the matter is she should never have been allowed to approach. Those 4 people supposedly went into that room specifically to kill or capture her. She was clearly not going to be captured, so they should have killed her. Illyria should have shot her in the face. You know, Jaina at the very least should have frost-nova'd her to stop her walking forward any further. Gen should have spilt her guts. All nonsense, all mad. But yeah, it's Unzoth is, Sylvanas clearly is going to be a big story in it. But remember what they said in that interview last week. And that was what was most exciting about it. Sylvanas and Saurfang are representative of the old Horde. These two aspects of the Horde. And they specifically described both Sylvanas and Saurfang as old Horde. And they were talking about a new Horde that's coming. And that basically means Sylvanas and Saurfang are not going to be a part of it. That's, there's no other way of interpreting those words as I see it. When you describe two figures as old Horde and you say you're going to be moving towards a new Horde, they're not part of it. They're playing out their roles in this expansion. That's not to say they're going to disappear off the face of the lore, but they're not. Neither of them is going to be in charge of the Horde by the end of this expansion. That's what I read into it. If you remember correctly, Sylvanas' daggers pierce armor like nobody's business. Well, quite possibly, but they don't even need to. He was exposed. He took his hat off. She was unarmed. She's never unarmed. She's never unarmed. She just didn't have her bow, that's all. All they need to do was create a standoff with a squad of dart rangers in front of Sylvanas. Oh yeah, there was loads of things they could have done. Loads of things. To have done this, they still could have had that conversation. If they wanted to have that conversation, there was loads of ways they could have had that conversation without having the stupidity of the cinematic as it was. That's what annoys me. It was not impossible to do what they wanted to do in a sensible way. They were just lazy. Well, lazy or stupid, take your pick. Killing Sylvanas would have been bad optics for the... Bad optics? I think it would have been pretty good. You were severely disappointed by Jaina's utter lack of reaction being in Lord of Warcraft. Well, do you know, that's something I said when I was watching that cinematic. The person who did a double take was Anduin. Out of those 4 people that were walking towards the throne room, he was the only one who could not possibly have made that journey when Lordaeron was a human kingdom still. All of the others will have inevitably have walked down that path. Illyria may or may not have done, I don't know. I think she probably would have done. Gen certainly would have done, and obviously Jaina would have done. So yeah, the fact that it was Anduin that stopped and did that double take, rather than any of the others, yeah, I found baffling. You're excited to do the Vol'jin Bunsamdi quest. Oh yeah, I'm excited for that as well. Even though I'm not rushing my rep, I am very excited. So I will look it on YouTube. Someone else will do it first. I want to find out about the Vol'jin thing. Because part of it, because obviously I've already speculated on what I think is going to happen. I may be wrong, but we will see. In all honesty, Gen's line to Sylvanas would have made more sense being spoken by Jaina. Well, it doesn't really matter. Like, just the whole interaction, it just lost all of its grandeur just because of that. How cool was the diving quest right before the Siege of Borealis? Don't know. Yes, Vol'jin. Basically, as I understand it, but I don't know anything about what's going to happen, apart from guesswork, Thrall is taking Vol'jin's ashes to Zandalar. So we are going to get some more of the story. We knew we were anyway before they even announced this expansion. Because do you remember? I think someone let something slip that they shouldn't have done. Because when Vol'jin died, basically a dev let slip... Well, I didn't think it was letting slip. I thought they were just sort of saying that his story wasn't over yet. So then, of course, loads of people kept asking, oh, what's happening with Vol'jin? What's happening with Vol'jin? So then Ian Hazakostas kept saying, he's dead. He's dead. That's it. Which, of course, it wasn't. They knew it wasn't it. So, well, they burnt him. I don't think he's just in voodoo form. You know, they didn't just bury him. They set fire to him, don't you remember? He is ashes. But we're obviously going to be doing something where we commune with his spirit or something like that. And obviously, bear in mind, yeah, of course, Bunsamdi will have his soul because he pledged the whole Darkspear tribe to Bunsamdi. So it will be interesting. That is, to be honest, it is the story I'm most looking forward to. I think there's a few story strands, some of which are likely to be interesting, some of them less so. That is the storyline that I am most eagerly awaiting. One criticism of the questing seemed less inspired. More repetition with pick up 3 quests to kill and loot. Oh, I don't think I necessarily noticed that. But, I mean, that's how I just view quests anyway. What does dead mean to Ian? Yeah. Well, he is dead. It's just that in World of Warcraft, you know, souls are a thing. So their spirit isn't necessarily dead. Vol'jin is Troll Heaven. I wouldn't describe Bunsamdi's realm as Troll Heaven. You know, I don't think he wants to gather souls to pamper them. They serve him in death. So Vol'jin is Bunsamdi's bitch. When is the Alliance taking variants Felchard asses to Borealis? Why would they? Anyway, he doesn't even have any ash. He was just a charred, smoky remains on the ground. I don't think they gathered anything other than his sword up. Bunsamdi is the best part. He is really good. He's a cool character, yes. Zappy Boy, sorry, he's dead. I killed him. I'm still pretty sure he's the one Anduin killed, but people keep saying no, he's not. Oh, fine. I'll bow to popular opinion there. But I'm pretty sure that if Anduin didn't kill him, then I did. When I was on my Alliance character, of course. The Tortollan mini games. I like the shell game. I love that. I hate the one where you've got to guide the turtles to the shoreline. Even though it's a lot easier. For some reason, it's way easier on live than it was in the beta. In the beta, it was a bit of an arsehole trying to target. I like the shells game. I absolutely love that. Even though the way I have my UI set up, the target and my own player bar obscure 2 of them. So, that's a bit annoying. The maze one, I don't hate it, but it is unnecessarily slow. I know they're supposed to be tortoises. Or turtles, whatever the hell. But I don't hate it. I do dislike the shore one, though. But I love the shells game. I do like that. It's way better than... Like, there was none of the Kirin Tor ones that I... Oh, no, I tell a lie. No, I did enjoy one. The Enigma one I used to like, didn't I? Oh, yeah, that's fine. But in general, I would say they're better than the Kirin Tor ones. The Barrels of Fun one was all right, but it wasn't particularly fun. You know. There was no way it was going to be able to cash that check, calling it Barrels of Fun. And the Flight one was... until... Oh, it was a pain in the ass. That was annoying. Anduin smacked a grey-haired troll. Well, then I killed him. What do you want? He's dead, either way. Doesn't matter whether Anduin killed him, a fake paladin, or whether I killed him, a real paladin. He's dead. Gone to Bunsamdi again. And if they try and put him in a cinematic in the future, I shall want to know why. The Norwington horse games. Yeah, I haven't had to do that yet because, of course, I'm now Horde. Yeah, that is a pain. I've done it on the beta, though. It's a pain. You had a lot of friends complain about the Enigma one. Yeah, you just had to count it. You just said, and then left. You just had to just audibly count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left 1, 2, 3, 4. And do that. And it was, you know, it was fun. Nice little bit of mental arithmetic sort of thing. The platform ones were a pain until you could fly, yes. Yeah. Sometimes even when you could fly, though, you had to still stay within the bounds of it, otherwise it would teleport you back. You had to be a bit careful. Of course, yeah, once you could fly, it was I mean, I suppose all of them were straightforward once you knew how to do it. But the process of learning how to do it, which inevitably had to be trial and error, because you couldn't get to see what the whole thing looked at before you went at it. Yeah, hated it. Do you know what? The video I did on that one remains one of my most viewed videos to this day. Let me just check where it's up to now. If I search for videos from, say, the past couple of years. Maybe it's not in the top 10. Let's have a look. Oh, it is. It's in number 9 position. It's my 9th most viewed video on this channel. But the Enigma one, I love the Enigma one. Well, yeah, Malinoric, it didn't use the outer one, that's true. I didn't, but the way I sort of worked it out didn't matter about that anyway. What if it's a cinematic with Bonsam, Divulgin and Zappy Boy? I'm just going to believe that it's a different troll. But it won't be. It'll be Bonsam, Divulgin and Thrall. You hate him on account of him being a meme character. Oh. That would be, if anything was going to endear me to him, that would be it. But it's not going to. He's dead. I killed him. I already told you. Someone's killed him anyway. Oh, I didn't remember the patterns. I mean, obviously there were only set patterns. It was not randomly generated, but, you know. I just used to do counting. Then all you have to do is remember, like, 4 numbers. The barrels... Nah, see, I never used an add-on for them. You didn't need... Sometimes 2 barrels would cross through each other, in which case that was trickier. Not impossible, because then you'd have to try and think about the trajectory, but it made it a lot harder. But you didn't need an add-on. That's just cheating. The whole point of the Kirin Tool ones was mental agility. So I used to, like, you know, play them in the spirit in which they were intended. Apart from the Magic of Flight one, where I used to just fly through them all. But the things hurt your eyes for some reason. I expect they would. Because the problem is that they're moving so fast that you can actually... It's like the frame rate's not quite fast enough. Obviously it is. But somehow it doesn't seem it. Because it doesn't move realistically. Because they move that fast. And because they move through each other as well. I think that's probably why it hurt your eyes. It did mine sometimes. Why do you as an Alliance Paladin see Bunsamdi when you die on Zandalar? No, he doesn't only have a connection with the Horde. He has no connection with the Horde, really. He's the Lower of Death. He can't get any souls other than those that are pledged to him. But no, he's not. He doesn't care about the Horde. He don't give a shit. So you'll see him whether you're Alliance or Horde. Have I started the Alliance question yet? No. Ah, well, you say that, but I've actually already killed a Horde player. Last week. I think it might have been the weekend I killed a Horde player. So you don't need... See, the best way to kill Horde is to be Horde. It's that simple. This is why people kept saying when I went Horde, oh, you'll get to kill loads of gnomes. No, I won't get to kill any gnomes. That's the problem. I was able to kill gnomes as an Alliance player. I have no chance of killing them as a Horde player because I don't do PvP. So what happened for those who don't know, and I did tweet about it, basically, I was going to a world quest and it was in Zuldazar and it was like one of those in a cave, but it was, the flight point was on like a cliff thing, so you had to jump down. But it wasn't safe to jump down. But then I noticed when I was moving along it, that someone put follow on me. I thought, what are they doing? I thought, do they just assume I'm going to do the world quest and they somehow assume they'll get credit for it? Because they don't even get credit for it. If you don't do any damage to it or anything, you'll get no credit for the kill anyway. So I thought, what's he put follow on me for? So I thought, well, I'm going to take the opportunity here. So I jumped off, used Blessing of Protection. I landed safely. He died. Hilarious. He has a specific question. Well, with the Darkspear trolls, who are the trolls in the Horde, yes. But not the wider Horde. Well, this is the thing. Never put me on follow without my permission. Even back in the day in Molten Core, sometimes people would put follow on you when you were because the corpse runs were horrendous, and they'd put follow on you to go to the toilet. Now, if someone said, "I'm putting follow on you, Thete, because I want to go to the toilet," and assuming they weren't a gnome, then that'd be fine. I'd be quite happy to shepherd them back. But if they didn't, I'd be running them off. I'd be going on to the. I'd take a sharp turn at the edge of something and have them jump into the lava. Although follow works a lot better now. I think back in those days where lag was a thing, it was easier to swing them off things. It's a lot harder now. So yeah, it's if people asked and they've got a good reason for following me, then that's fine. I don't automatically try and kill everyone who puts follow on me. It's just when they haven't even had the manners to ask and give me a good reason. Hell yeah, there are voice lines that indicate she isn't dead. Really? Pretty sure I killed her. And she's less than a keeper, and there's actual keepers that I've killed. Actually, should I be saying plural? We killed a keeper in Alderman. He's dead. So she should be dead. I don't know on what basis she's not dead then. But anyway, I don't know. Remember when people used to auto-follow in Battlegrounds? Oh yeah, well that was obviously... You're going to notice that as well. You're not going to be able to surreptitiously do that. Right, I haven't seen those ones then, if there's Hellier voice lines. Leper Gnomes allied race for the Horde. Yes, that wouldn't surprise me. Have I tried solo and Legion content now? I'm not really into doing that. There's nothing I particularly want from any of them transmog-wise. So there's no reason for me to do it. And I've got the mounts. I don't think there's any mounts I'm missing. And at the last Agrimar kill ever, I got the Tayshalak. So I've even got the transmogs I wanted. I don't have the blue Argus transmog, admittedly. The scythe, that is. I've got the red one. The thing is, though, is it actually attributed to Hellier, or does it just sound like Hellier? I suppose the game file will have Hellier in it, won't it? Because if it just sounds like it, it might just be that they've used the same voice artist. A bit like Seth MacFarlane voicing half the characters in Family Guy, and then they all sound the same. Because he's not actually very good at voices. Leper gnome appearance would be great. You decide how many limbs you have left. I'm not sure they would do that so much. Maybe one could be missing an ear or something. Who's my favourite lower in the expansion? I actually quite like Razan, even though he's come a cropper very early on. I think my 3 favourite lower would be Razan, Brumsamdi, and Jani, is it? The little one with the trash piles. Quite like that one. Quagwa. No, he annoys me because I am assuming this is a bug. The thing is, this is a bug I reported months ago in the beta. So when you first go to him in Nazmir, you hear him saying about, he says that line about one of his followers who's now dead. Cragway, yeah. And then you just hear it constantly. I hear nothing else for half an hour afterwards in Nazmir. The same bloody line bellowing out. So no, just for that reason only, I hate Kragwa. I quite liked jumping around with him, doing his tongue flick and things like that. But apart from that, Metzen did a big share of the voices in Warcraft games too. Yeah, but he can do different voices at least. You know, he's actually not too bad a voice artist. But Seth MacFarlane, you know, the most impressive thing about him is he can actually sing really well with his small number of voices that he can do. The bat lower, what? Kirik, isn't it? The bat lower. He was in Vanilla. In fact, there's a few of the lower that were in Vanilla. Kirik was in Stranglethorn Vale. The spider lower was a rare. It might still be there, I don't know. But there's a spider. There was a rare spider, and that was the spider lower in Hinterlands, in one of the little troll temple areas. The place where you had to get the mallet thingy made. Or it might not have been there. Near there. But it was in a hinterland somewhere. So, you know, these ones have been in the game before. Any reason for all the lower overlap? Razan and Gonk. Well, Razan is supposed to be the lower of kings. He just is a hunter. Whereas Gonk is specifically lower of the hunt. The other thing about Kimball being a tiger, we already have Shivala, is they adopt forms. There's no reason why two couldn't adopt the same form. Yasma killed the spider lower, that's right. But what I mean is the actual spider lower in its live state used to be a rare in Hinterlands, but I don't know if it's still there or if they've removed it for, you know, reasons. Oh dear, I'm not even going to respond to that one. But there may be other lower that we get, you know. I mean, there's a very high density of them in Zandalot, that's all I will say. Given that a lot of them are supposed to be like wild gods and are supposed to be spreading themselves out across Azeroth. Hi, Arena. Oh, thank you. But yeah, my three favourites, as I say, Yanni or Janny, I don't know. Janny, I think it's supposed to be. I keep saying Yanni for some reason. Thoughts on Gahoon in what respect? What, as a boss or as a story character? As a story character, as I say, it's the thing that convinces me that we're going to be basically finishing off the old gods this expansion. As a threat to Azeroth, that is. Obviously not all the old gods in the universe. But as a threat to Azeroth, we're going to be finishing them off. And that's what Gahoon is. Because he's a manufactured old god, isn't he? With the purposes of trying to work out how we kill them. So I think that's going to be the story. But somebody doesn't have an origin story, might be the first low. He might be. He might have been there before the Titans came along. That would, you know, that'd be. Or would he? Maybe. Don't I think the lower are rather perfect for a being that's worshipped, given mortals tend to kill them or take their power. Well, I mean, a lot of them don't. I mean, some of them demand to be worshipped. That's true. Not all of them do. As I say, some of them are supposed to be wild gods, which are basically part of the Emerald Dream. You can't post a link. Hell yeah, alive Reddit. Okay, I'll have a look at that later. Your guesses will fight against Azshara, Saturn, Yogg-Saron. Well, here's the thing, Corrux. There has been some debate in recent years. Obviously, the original official line was that when we fought Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron, that all we did was defeat them, not kill them. That was the official line. However, people have been speculating for the last couple of years with things that Blizzard have been saying and wondering if that's actually supposed to be true or not. Apart from anything else, Cthulhu is right, or bits of Cthulhu at least are right under Silithus. Do you not think he would have given a bit of a yelp when the sword stabbed him? So there is a suggestion that that will be retconned and that we have already dealt with Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron, maybe. Didn't Yogg-Saron turn up in the Legion starter quest where we meet Magni? Hang on. What? Where did we meet Magni? I don't remember that, if that's the case. But I don't know. All I do know... Well, I don't know anything. But what I was going to say is what I strongly suspect is that we will deal with... I don't think we're going to have those old gods all as different raid bosses. I think N'Zoth is possible. Thoughts on the Horde story being way more linked to the first raid compared to Alliance? Well, at first what I thought was, obviously, if you're going to have separate zones for each faction, it's obvious that one of them is going to be more tightly linked to the lore of the first raid. That's inevitable. But I thought that maybe it'll switch back and forth as we go through the expansion. And it might, because the N'Zoth one, Azshara raid might well have stronger links to Kul Tiras with Stormsong Valley and all that lot. So it is possible that they're going to do some of that. However, the impression I got from what those devs were talking about with that Polygon interview is that it might well be that BFA as an expansion in its entirety is much bigger on Horde lore than an Alliance. That there may be significant amounts of both, but it might be mostly a Horde one. It could be argued Legion was mostly an Alliance one, if we're going to be fair. Because the key characters in it, the key NPCs, you had like Illidan, Velen, Turalian, Illyria, Maiev, you know. So you could definitely argue that Legion was more Alliance-y, and so, you know, it's not a terrible thing if it's more Horde for BFA. What if Sargeras killed Cthulhu when his sword lasted Silithus? Well, he may have done. That may indeed. Because do you know what happened? As soon as I found out, which was long before it was official, of course, as soon as the new map of Silithus was data mined and there was that scar in it, and we sort of got the impression it was going to be Sargeras' sword that did it. As soon as that happened, I thought to myself, we're going to get a Cthulhu-related pre-patch. But we didn't. Nothing happened. Cthulhu hasn't emitted so much as a whimper. But if his body is anywhere, part of it is under Silithus. That sword has landed right near the Temple of Anchorage. It must have stabbed into it. So for him not to have gone, ow, what's that? Sort of suggests that he's dead. Either dead before the sword stabbed him, or the sword has stabbed him dead. But we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? How many characters do I plan on getting to 120? Not many. I mean, who knows? With me being a casual, maybe I'll get all of them to 120, and maybe I won't. I plan on at least getting, as well as the Hunter and the Druid that I sort of want to get up there, A demon hunter who I might make an alchemist, and the Alliance paladin on the North American account. At least those, we will see. Game Theorist YouTube guy did a scientific video on this one. Yeah, well, the thing is, I haven't seen the video. The thing that the problem with doing that is I was careless enough to do a Science of Argus video when Argus honed into view, and then it completely spoilt it when someone pointed out that one of the satellites of Azeroth went behind it. Completely knackered it. So the same thing happens here. Basically, there is no point in doing a science of anything in a fantasy world, much less Warcraft, where they put even less thought into how the world works than most other fantasy world creators. Because, you know, yeah. Would it count as Horde lore if Anduin kills Sylvanas? Well, that would be about wherever you get any interaction between Horde and Alliance characters, it counts as both, doesn't it? It's like a no-score draw. But Anduin is not going to kill Sylvanas. Nobody's going to kill Sylvanas. I've already said what's going to happen to Sylvanas, or what I believe. They chose Silithus for a reason. Absolutely. That is absolutely correct. That was exactly my view, Albion, as well. They chose it for a reason. It is an Old Gods expansion. Something, you know... as I say, the fact that he hasn't gone Rarg sort of suggests to me he's dead. Because I don't care how dormant he is, you're not going to tell me that a Titan sword sticking in his side isn't going to bloody well hurt. Remember someone telling you that the Old Gods are just one large mass? No. They're different. They're definitely distinct. They don't even always work together. They've worked against each other in the past. In the days of the Black Empire, they warred against each other. You know, they don't work as a team. Do I think Rokan will step up to leader of the Darkspear? He might do. I mean, obviously they've introduced him as not necessarily leader of the Trolls, but de facto champion of them. So it wouldn't be much of a push for him to suddenly be revealed as the leader. I don't even... Who's even supposed to be the... Is there even a leader at the moment? I don't know. I haven't noticed anything. Rathian agents have been spotted in Blackrock, yes. They chose Silithus because they couldn't make it interesting, so they just... I don't know. I think Silithus was actually one of the more interesting zones. There was a lot of stuff in there, which they've, all right, not permanently got rid of because you can go back in time and still do it. No, I think it's everything's Old Gods related in this. Everything leads to Old Gods in this expansion. What will happen to Sylvanas? I did a video on it. My theory is simply this. Sylvanas is being played. Vol'jin, the lower didn't tell Vol'jin to make Sylvanas war chief. The Old Gods did. Now, it may have been via corrupted lower, but Sylvanas becoming war chief is an Old Gods plot, right? They are playing her to make, and she's doing exactly what they wanted her to do, to make alliance a war with the Alliance. Because at the moment, Azeroth is in real trouble, and they don't want the Alliance and the Horde working together against the Old Gods. They are obviously planning a big reveal of themselves. They've been doing their dormancy thing. They're about to launch another attack on Azeroth, and they want the Alliance and the Horde at each other's throats. It's all working swimmingly. I think when we do the communing with Vol'jin's ashes, we're going to discover that this has happened. Sylvanas is going to realise she's been played for a fool, and she's going to see what she's done, because she doesn't want the destruction of Azeroth. And I think she's going to do a thing, which will involve, at the very least, stepping down as war chief, but potentially sacrificing herself, you know, maybe in an N'Zoth-related raid or something like that. I haven't worked out the details. But it hardly matters because the details will never be right anyway. Because Blizzard don't even get the details right. So I'm certainly not going to be able to guess their details. I haven't done Ashes of Vol'jin, no. Do you mean to tell me I'm already wrong? You think it was Bronsamdi's boss who was... Who's Bronsamdi's boss? Well, the Fel might have been killing him. It doesn't necessarily mean he was crazy. Seems to have worked out pretty well for Bronsamdi. Maybe. Obviously, only the Darkspear trolls are pledged to him. He would probably like it if others were, because he doesn't get souls just because they die or just because they die in Zandalar. He just happens to be in Zandalar. Because that's where a lot of his followers are, I suppose. Oh, he references an unknown boss at some point. Okay, fair enough. Wonder who that is then. In the Vol'jin Urn quest, Bronsamdi is scared of his boss for losing. Ah, I see. His lost Vol'jin spirit. Right. Well, there you go. So I could still be right then. Is that, am I correct? Nothing's contradicted it so far. Seems weird that King's Rest and Siege of Borealis are mythic only, especially as an end story thing. Well, Siege of Borealis makes sense because that's a major thing. King's Rest not... Well, I think... No, I don't know. I think both of them make a certain sort of amount of sense. Since dating back to Kata, we've seen signs of Azshara. They keep popping Azshara up, though, always, because they know she's the only baddie that hasn't featured in World of Warcraft. Like, the only one. Apart from N'Zoth himself, I suppose. So... And even then... I mean... The old gods were in Cataclysm. So I suppose, realistically, Azshara is the only one we haven't really dealt with. So they keep dangling her. Everyone gets excited. Oh, Azshara, Azshara. Yeah, we're only kidding. She's not really here. But now she's going to be. People are speculating a death god in the Shadowlands. Oh, yeah, the Zandalari ruler line is pledged to him. Yeah. That turned out to be a bit of a crap deal, didn't it? Given that the seal still got broken. Oh, dear. Yes, well, that was the thing from Rastikan's point of view. The actual lower he worshipped, Razan, has been buggered. So he needed another lower, I suppose, anyway. And Bronsamdi is a pretty powerful one. And you can do deals with him. No, Azshara has been confirmed for raid boss. That's what yeah, we've known that for ages. It's the only thing we know about that raid. Obviously, I'm guessing they're going to give us some details in a few days. But that is the only thing that we have... And they said that at BlizzCon. We knew that as far as... That's why it's so... This is the thing, you see. The Azshara raid, there's got to be a reason why they've been keeping it a secret, other than the fact that it exists. That they've been keeping it a secret for so long. This is unusual. There must be something about it, including potentially some of the bosses, that effectively reveal something that until the expansion launched they didn't want revealed. It's the only thing that makes sense. We're almost out of Warcraft RTS bosses. We basically are, yeah. In fact, we are, because was Azshara even in the RTS? And she's in the lore, she's in the novels and stuff. But I don't... She didn't actually feature in any of the Warcraft games, did she? I can't... I'm sure she didn't. Can't think that she did anyway. So, I think they are out of RTS bosses. Well, Illidan is still out there, but he's is prison warden now. There were references, certainly, yeah. She was referenced, but I wouldn't call her a Warcraft RTS or boss because she didn't feature herself. She was just named. And then, of course, novels embellished it a bit further. Why does Jaina get so much preferential treatment from her parents? Well, the thing about the brothers is, in the original lore, it was her eldest brother that actually took over leadership of Kulturas when her father died. Whereas now they've made it her mother. That's a retconning thing. Presumably because it helps the storyline there. You hope they do something with Bolvar. I think it's inevitable, don't you? Surely they're going to. Talia is just, that is surely going to happen. It's going to be a very awkward meeting of the parents, isn't it, for Anduin? She can't meet his parents, and he probably thinks he can't meet her parents, but oh, lo and behold. I wonder who's going to tell them. Who's actually... Because the only people that know is, apart from us, the game character, the Knights of the Ebon Blade know that Bolvar is the Lich King. I wonder who else does. No, again, I have enough faith in them. I know they do reuse storylines sometimes, but I don't think they're going to do anything as obvious as just have the Lich King go bad in the same way that Arthas was. I don't see that. No. Like, I know they've done things like bring Onyxia back to life, and Kel'Thas came back to life in the same bloody expansion. But, I think that would be too much. Well, it wasn't just Tyrion that knew, because the Knights of the Ebon Blade knew as well, because of the Death Knight starter, the artifact quest for the Death Knights in Legion. So the Knights of the Ebon Blade know, and they don't like him. So it's not impossible that they have blabbed it to someone. Oh, I suppose Sylvanas as well, yeah. But more people may now know, because as I say, I wouldn't trust Darian to have kept it to himself necessarily. Let us group up with Bolvar versus the Old Gods in a Black Empire expansion. No, they're killing Old Gods. I'm telling you. I'm certain of it. They want to do something different. They want to take the Warcraft story in a different direction. There is no other reason why they would do an expansion where they finish off the Legion as a threat. And this expansion is shaping up to be doing the same thing for Old Gods. I am 100%... No, I'm 99.7% certain that they are wanting to do something radically different with the Warcraft story very soon. So I do not think the Old Gods are going to be a thing for the next expansion. I think it's this expansion. I think Legion and this expansion are tidying things up. Bolvar, yes, definitely does seem to have his own agenda for things. He's certainly not the Bolvar that first put on the crown. That is true. And although he's highly suspicious, it doesn't necessarily mean he's an Arthas Lich King Mark II. So I'm saying there's a chance it isn't Olga. No. We're dealing with Old Gods this expansion. Nothing else makes sense. Not that their stories always make sense, but I'm fairly sure. Fairly sure. But time will tell ultimately. Who knows? They do all sorts of strange things. It was actually quite funny because what that dev was saying in that interview as well was he was saying, oh, you know, people always think they know what's going to happen, but we can absolutely fool them. Now, there's two ways that you can actually throw red herrings out and fool people and, you know, get them to think the story's going one way and then it suddenly goes another. The first way is you open up so many story threads that there's so many potential directions for the whole thing to go that it's impossible to correctly speculate on the correct one. Or you can do what Blizzard do and just do something that makes no sense. And then it's like, well, that's, so therefore you make it completely impossible to predict it because they just do something that makes no sense. You would never have predicted it in a million years. So we'll have to see there, if it's not as I think it is, and it's possible, then either they've been very clever or they've been very stupid. We will wait to see which it is. Void expansion next. I don't know. Maybe. But maybe not. Maybe something genuinely new. Actually new. Really new. Maybe they're going to do something new. They haven't done anything new in the whole of World of Warcraft apart from Mists of Pandaria, and they got some stick for that. But maybe. Do I think the Kulturan allied race will just be the big fellas? No, I think we'll get a choice of body type even. You know how like with the orcs and the trolls now you get the upright and hunched over? I reckon we'll get, fat and skinny for the Kulturans as well. Will we go to an alien planet in the Void expansion? I am disappointed. See, it's an obvious thing, because it's easy to make new zones when we go to another world. And obviously the capacity to do so exists. But for me, it's disappointing every time we do that. It was good in TBC going to Outland. That was interesting. But other than that, it's not really that exciting. Argus had the potential, I suppose, to be exciting if it had been done as an expansion rather than a patch. But in the event, it was just a few zones of world quests. Argus version would be Nyalotha. Well, I think we'll be going to Nyalotha this expansion. I agree. Mop was amazing. I thought a lot of people had a bit of an issue with the Kung Fu Panda thing, which was a shame because I thought it was a brilliant expansion. It's my favourite expansion in terms of storyline. You really want the normal human model with the Kulturan coat. I want the Kulturan coat, but they won't let me have it because if they let anyone have it, it'll be leather wearers. This is what annoys me about the transmog in this game. The fact that I could physically put a leather coat on, physically wear it, and have that look, but I can't transmog my gear into it. Blizzard are arseholes. I've used that word far too often tonight. Wish the trolls could have straight spines. Well, Zandalari trolls can. When you get access to Zandalari trolls, they have an upright version. Actually, are they just upright? I think they might be only upright. Yeah, I think they are actually. I don't think you get a hunched version. But either way, there's an upright troll. You wouldn't spend an entire expansion in a wasteland of a planet, though. It didn't have to be... Well, it wasn't a wasteland, was it? There was, Macquarie was a nice zone. They could have... it didn't have to be complete wasteland. Anyway, I'm not saying they should have done an expansion. I'm just saying, for me, it would have been exciting to have gone to Argus as an expansion, but not as a patch, where all it was 3 zones with a painted background to them because they weren't actually genuinely in 3D space. Maybe a space exploration expansion would do... No, my God, no. No. I'm not... Oh, God, no. To me, it seems that Ny'alotha is a type of afterlife. Well, things in Warcraft universe tend to have a habit of being physical places. Like the Emerald Dream, for example, isn't geographically there, but you can pass into it. You know, so it might be something like that, but I still think it'll be a physical place. Worgen male needs an upright posture like the female. Yeah, that would be a nice addition. When they finally get round to doing the Worgen, they may well do that. But remember, that's low down on their list. If the Zandalari got Paladin, I'm sure they will, but I'm not sure that it will be as soon as the Zandalari are available. That's my word on that. Time to equip laser guns. They already have laser guns. Obviously, players can't equip laser guns. Although, you know, the Beastmaster in Legion had a laser sight. Not that it was a proper laser because you could see it from the side, but, you know, something similar. I mean, it didn't even need Ian to all but confirm it. The story all but confirms it. You know, the prelate story is setting it up for Zandalari Paladins, absolutely. They need to double the size of Direhorn mounts now. How about an underwater expansion? I don't even want another underwater zone. I am worried that we are going to get an underwater zone, and I'm worried that we're going to get a raid with a heavy underwater theme to it, because Azshara's model in the raid has tentacles. It's not even like a Naga with the tail thing. It's tentacles. She looks like Ursula in The Little Mermaid. I am worried that that fight is going to be underwater. That it's an underwater raid fight. I hate gimmick fights. It was bad enough when I had to do a bit of swimming on Kel'Thas in Tempest Keep. So that is my fear. Vulpera cannot be an allied race. They won't ever make Vulpera a race for two... Well, it can't be an allied race because there are no Vulpera as actual... An allied race is a customised version of a race that already exists. That's what an allied race is. It's basically a sub-race without calling it a sub-race, because if they made it a sub-race, Blizzard wouldn't be able to charge you for using it. Or for changing into it. Actually, no, they probably still could. But it also won't be... Yeah, but they're not actually goblins. They've used the goblin skeleton to make them. They're not actually supposed to be related to goblins. In fact, that's another reason why we know they're not going to be made a race. Because they haven't even made them. They've just used goblins and put fur on them. But the other thing is... The other reason why it won't be a race is because when we get a new race, it's always based on the expansion that they're introduced. Well, and they introduce races at the start of an expansion, not halfway through. So, Vulpera are not a race in this expansion. If we get a new race in the next expansion, Vulpera will have nothing to do with it. Unless the next expansion is Homeworld of the Vulpera. You know, Return of the Fox People. Unless that's the theme, we're not getting Vulpera race ever. And good thing too, because they're pathetic. You know, a race that makes gnomes look useful is a desperate, desperate race. You don't think Azshara will be underwater? I hope it won't be underwater. I seriously hope so. Yeah, it might be like Helya, where she's in the water and we're not. That is entirely possible. It's also possible that we don't fight Azshara directly herself. You know, maybe the Azshara... We know there's an Azshara encounter, but maybe we fight other things and an NPC, like maybe Sylvanas, fights her. Maybe she does a sacrificial thing. Because maybe Azshara is summoning an Zoth or something like that. Not in a Legion summoning way, because it's already there, but you know, some rites, some magical rite to empower an Zoth to bring him up or something like that. And maybe that's the point at which Sylvana realises she's been played, sacrifices herself, and foils Azshara into the process. We don't necessarily even kill Azshara. Just because there's an Azshara fight doesn't mean we even kill her. Any new mechanics that change your movement are gimmick fights? They don't have to give up an innovation in encounter design, but the thing is that encounter design is almost never innovative. In Legion, there was one item of innovation in the whole expansion in raid fights, and that was the blackout phase on Sargeras, the Illidan phase. That was it. Everything else and every raid boss after that was not new. It's been there before. The time before Sargeras that I can think of anything new was Dark Animus, and that was a pain in the arse fight. So sometimes the problem is that the game is limited. Any game is limited. And the mechanics, once you've designed 100 raid bosses, you've basically done every... You don't even have to design that many before you've done every mechanic. So sometimes they come up with something that's genuinely new, but sometimes, yeah, it's not a good thing to use it. Bet we'll have to swim to the entrance, but the instance itself probably will be underwater style. Or won't be. Well, it might be like Serpent Shrine Cavern, which is, you know, you can effectively think of as a flooded raid. And it might be that Azshara either is submerged and we're not, like Helya, or that we don't actually directly fight her. She's there in the encounter, but we're fighting other things. You know, there's several things they could do. But I'm not putting past them. I am not putting past the concept that they might do an underwater fight and that the Tortollan will do... Because they've already, you know, in Stormsong Valley, where the Tortollan give you that underwater breathing and you can move more quickly underwater, that might be something that's used on such an encounter. The Tortollan give us that ability for that fight. I can see it happening. I'm not saying I think it will happen, but I can absolutely see it happening. The bitching when genuinely new mechanics are introduced. Name me a genuinely new mechanic then. You name me a genuinely new mechanic. Because I've named 2 from the last 7 years. What's an actual new mechanic that you're thinking of? Because the only reason Dark Animus produced criticism was because it required a quarter of your raid to stand in a corner and do nothing. Which isn't fun. And the Illidan phase on Tomb of Sargeras, no one can criticise because that was actually quite a good idea. And there has never been anything new since or between them. When do I think Classic will come out? I don't know. All I do know is they'd better have an announcement for BlizzCon, or there will be people will murder them, I think. I'm surprised the hype hasn't started up. Classic will come out in the content drought. Well, they don't seem to be very keen on having content droughts these days. The flying in Vortex Pinnacle. That was just Wrath of the Lich King. That's not a new mechanic, is it? That's over 10 years old. I said a new mechanic. What role do I think Nathanos and Lillian? I think Nathanos will become leader of the Forsaken. I think Sylvanas is going to not only not be war chief, I don't think she's going to be leader of the Forsaken either when this is all played out with. I think Nathanos will step up as leader of the Forsaken. The extra action button. Was it Kata? No. Was it? It might have been. But that was alright. I don't remember people moaning about that. That's just an extra keybind. I wouldn't necessarily have noticed if people criticised it, because remember, I'd quit the game. I only came back at the end of Cataclysm. Losing terrain in Crosus? No, that's not new. They did that in Lich King. It was done more difficult. It was a more difficult mechanic in Lich King as well. How about all of us in a submarine controlling stations like Tuppy? Oh dear. See, a fight where you're not using your character's skills, I don't see the appeal. And I think a lot of other people don't either. You're talking about... I said new mechanic. You know, the Drake fight in Oculus was not another attempt. Basically, Wrath of the Lich King introduced vehicle fights. You know, one vehicle fight is the same as another, and it includes all the way up to Professor Putricide. It was a vehicle fight. The reason why people complain about that, and it started off in like Malagus in raids, is because you're not playing your character. Like Malagos, supposedly the hardest boss in that first thing, only because the rest of them were a piece of piss. You just used 1, 2, 3, not cycling 1, 2. It's like 1, 1, 2, 2, 3 or something, and that's. But the reason why people complain about that, you're not playing your character. Like, there was me as a Retribution Paladin on it. I was doing exactly the same thing as a Death Knight, as a Rogue, as a Mage, as a Druid. I was doing the same thing as everyone. So you're not playing your character. It's not a role-playing game at that point. That's the issue with vehicle fights. But again, that's not a new mechanic. You're talking about mechanics from years ago. The point I'm trying to make is there are almost never any new mechanics. All the new mechanics were from the early days. The last 7 years that I can think of, 2. What do I think Rexo will be up to? He does seem gung-ho about fighting Jaina. But Jaina will also be gung-ho about fighting him. That's the thing. There will be a little bit of... I don't know where the friction between Rexar and Jaina comes from, I have to say. Because I don't see that Jaina has done anything to piss off Rexar other than be alliance when he's Hood. But obviously Jaina will now have a bit of friction with Rexar. Was Eonar not a new mechanic? What, because you had to heal the boss? Or that it had to play Pac-Man? But I don't know. But again, that's like the first few years of World of Warcraft. You did have new mechanics. What I'm trying to say is there were no new mechanics in the last few years because they're gone. Your point was the way they reacted to the experiments and the new mechanics, why they've not had any more. No, it's not why. Because they were all criticised. The only ones that were criticised were the ones where you weren't playing your character. If you played your character, people were fine with them. Why don't they release more content at the start like World? Because then there's in a, let's say, 2 years for an expansion, they can only produce so much content according to the number of developers they've got working on it and so on. If they front load it, that's where they've had a problem before. They bring out too much content too early, and then you have these droughts between the content patches. It's actually far better to stagger it. So you've got something. So at the moment, no one, even high-end raiders, no one can say that they've run out of things to do. Everyone has got something to do at the moment. So why bring something new out? Whereas next week, they will. Next week, there will be something new out. Because people will have had a couple of weeks to have done that. You know, they keep doing it. Front-loading content, and then you end up with people getting bored later on because they've consumed it too greedily. Rexar with Thrall killed her father, exactly, that's what I mean. So Jaina will now have that friction with Rexar, but I don't understand where Rexar's animosity towards Jaina comes from. Other than the fact that she wants to destroy the Horde. You know, but, you know. She's not the only one. What happened to Velen and Turalyon at the Battle for Lordaeron? Don't know. Because Turalyon was in Before the Storm novel, but at the moment I've no idea. See, this is the thing though, I keep saying this, don't I? In World of Warcraft, as soon as they don't need a character anymore, they just drop them. They pay no attention to what they're doing. They don't even stick them somewhere, you know, just to bide their time. The thing is, I think Terralion will come back into it because Illyria is obviously going to have a big part to play in this expansion. You know, Illyria becoming a Void Elf was not just about having an allied race. At least I bloody well hope it wasn't. I think it's leading to a big Old Godsies storyline later on in the expansion. Probably get half orc. Oh, you can't say allied race when it doesn't exist. If you're talking about a race that doesn't currently exist as a playable race, then it's a new race, not an allied race. An allied race already exists in the game. It's just a variant on it. So we don't have half orcs and half ogres. And if I'm honest, I don't think there are very many of them. I don't even know that... Well, there's not that many, surely. Terralion is in the Storm... Oh, yes, here he is. Yeah, you're quite right. Sorry, I'd forgotten about that. He is indeed the boss at the end of the Stromgarda Keep Warfront for Horde, yeah. Yes, he is. Your item level 347, well done. But you're not 350 yet. So, you're not done. You're not finished. And doing the world quests every day, that is still content to do each day. So you haven't run out of things to do. You keep hoping to see a mech fight where we use more of your abilities and giant constructs. Wow. I don't really see the benefit personally in a role-playing game. In a role-playing game, your character is supposed to be powerful enough. You've just got revered with 7th Legion. Oh, you want the Dark Iron Dwarfs, yeah. Hosen and Chinyu. Well, I said in that Volpera video, didn't I? Half jokingly. You know, Hosen, they might bring as a new race. It would make more sense than Volpera. How would I feel about half gnome, half human? What on earth would a half gnome, half human even be? I mean, how would that even work? Like, how would you breed those two things? Because one way around it just seems futile, and the other way around it just seems unnecessarily painful. Not even a cesarean would save that one, would it? Volpera could be a Worgen offshoot. No. Balula has a video about how to get 350 item level fast. Does he have 350 item level? I'm not completing things in any sort of hurry at all. I'm casual now. I'm a filthy casual scrub. I don't need to rush anything. I'm not going to be doing as much of the content as I used to. Therefore, I need to portion it out a bit more slowly. You can't breed humans and gnomes. It's not. I mean, apart from the fact you shouldn't be able to breed two things that are very different anyway, because, you know, but then we can just assume chromosomes don't exist in World of Warcraft. Even so. Are you the only one that thinks there is always a 1 or 2 gift boss in Mythic by mechanics standards? Well, there often are in dungeons in general, aren't they? By the way, we have gone half an hour over here. You've been very good. Unfortunately, I'm not going to carry on very much longer. So we'll wrap this up. I'll just do the last few very, very quickly, and then we're calling this here. I'm not going beyond 2.5 hours. It wouldn't work if the female was a gnome. It wouldn't work if the male was a gnome. How is it going to... Unless they're hung like a donkey, and, you know, they're not, because we can see them with their underpants on, right? It's not getting in. even with a turkey baster, you would need several applications. It's magic. Biology doesn't matter in Magic Land. Well, possibly. Do you really need to make a video to tell people to buy everything from the auction house? Well, quite. Exactly. You know, that's... Opinion on the people that pick Alliance as a faction now as opposed to having... What? Never mind that. I don't check Gnome Underpants. I just happen to have seen them. You know, I'm observant. I'm a scientist. Anyway, I'm going to call it there. We're 2.5 hours in now. Thanks very much for coming on, everyone. I will be streaming some gameplay tomorrow. Quite what it's going to be, who knows. But have a good night, everyone. And until next time, I will see you later.